so easy to fight for this because we're fighting for everybody, even the people we don't agree with.
Welcome to Gun Owners of America's State of the Second podcast. I'm Kailey.
And I'm John, and today we're joined by Opie and the Smokies. The man, the myth, the legend himself.
Yeah.
They say he was born from a black bear in the top of the Smokies, and here he is.
Yep, that's what they say, supposedly. Yeah. No, but happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me out in a beautiful little spot we got here to look out on while we're doing this podcast, and just good to see you guys as always.
It's fantastic to see you. It's always a fun time when we get together.
Absolutely.
We've spent the last half hour laughing and having a good time. So Opie, let's get your backstory. Let people know who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Evansville, Indiana, or Booneville, Indiana. So a real small town. I usually tell people Evansville to avoid that last part. But, we still spell toilet with an R in it and stuff back there. But I worked at an ATM job that brought me down here to Tennessee almost about a decade ago. And that's kind of what started the whole shooting, kind of hobby and what we ended up with now. So I started with just kind of wanting to protect myself because I was working for a company that wasn't going to provide that for me. Got a Glock 17, had no idea what I was doing, started shooting, felt like I was a bad mofo because I was doing 2-second draws from Uncle Mike's holster and, going through that whole kind of process what new gun owners do. Once I came down here, was able to actually convince the company to move me. I had a backyard range, so I got to shoot a lot more, and then ended up leading to me finding other people here. Once I found other people, I really quickly realized how bad I suck at shooting. And it was just nice to have people watching over you, taking you under your wing and kind of helping you progress with that, that skill level as well. In the meantime, I had came up with an idea because I did the patch process as well. As soon as I got a gun, I started looking at Punisher skulls to put on everything and, followed that whole kind of trend and found these Facebook groups that were selling patches, morale patch classifieds, motivational patch black market, and was just like, what have I gotten myself into? So anything you can ever imagine, as you know, has been made into a patch form or a spoof or a goof patch, in some way or another. And this was right before Trump got elected. So in my head, I came up with Trump Train. That was a Thomas the Train with Trump's face on it. And so if anybody's ever seen that design, that was mine. Just had no idea what I was doing. So didn't even know how to copyright a design, any of that. That same year or that same time, we sell this right before the election, and it basically sells out in a Facebook group overnight. And so I'm like, I found myself in something pretty cool here. Shipped them all in regular envelopes, and half of them got lost because regular envelopes go through like a thin kind of device and it ripped the patches out. And so half the people had patches or empty envelopes show up with a, oops, we're sorry, this is all you get. And so that kind of all right, now I got to get my shipping underway. I got to get these people either refunds or get more patches replaced, and learned a lot from that first one. From there, we kind of started just pursuing a patch side hustle and went to the NRA show in Atlanta. So that's been
2018.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So 6 years ago, me and my wife went down and we started just promoting that we could do patches for people. And our first big gig was a Men Too. So it was pretty funny. We just happened to sit down at the lunch table, which how hard it is to find a seat. And these guys were sitting there. We sat down, got our food, and that led to kind of the entire process of what we're at now. So we're sitting there talking. They had us, make their patches, which was awesome to have that opportunity. But they also started saying, why are you not reviewing stuff if you're out shooting and making videos in your yard? Nobody gives a crap what I'm saying. I'm just trying to make myself better. But that led to products coming in and eventually kind of just setting everything up for, what we have. And so Jay with Liberty Bell Firearms, as you guys have met, awesome dude. He reached out to me when we were kind of getting along about 2 years in and said that he wanted to help the channel a lot and was a huge boost in what I was able to start doing. He provided us with a lot of just different opportunities that we didn't really have, let alone we were able to start really decking out some of the guns with Cerakote and kind of coming out with some of those outlandish rifles that you guys have seen floating around and stuff. And then it just kind of skyrocketed. So after that, we got with Smoky Mountain Guns and Ammo here in town. We've been with them now for almost 4 years doing reviews. We get to play with Sylvan Arms stuff all the time, so it's been really cool to work with them and Forge. And then, you know, stuff just kind of comes in and out. So between the reviews we do with Gun Made now and then little stuff like the crank grip that we're now working on and all that, it's just been a whirlwind of escalation in the last few years. And I just want to pass it all forward. So that's kind of what led into, you know, the training and the event and all that.
Yeah. The first time I met you was 2019.
With Faxon, right?
With Faxon. Oh, you walked by the booth and I haggled with him to get some patches. He ripped his only OG Opie and the Smokies logo patch off his bag, gave it to me. I still have one of the cats too, the Cheshire cats. And I can't remember. It was like 2 years later or a year later. I texted him and I'm like, "Hey man, look what I found." And he's like, "Where did you get that?" I was like, "You remember that show?" He's like, "You got one of the OGs."
Oh yeah.
So the patch thing is a huge thing. I mean, I have a ginormous patch wall, post picture here. That is huge. I've been doing it for a while. It's a fun community to be a part of. There's a lot of trading, a lot of talking. There's dedicated patch groups just for SHOT Show and all these events. Oh, yeah. And the funny part was I posted the last update I did on my patch wall after, I think it was before SHOT and then after SHOT. You tagged me in it. And you're like, "I did this one and this one." And I'm like, I didn't realize you did that many patches. The other one that kind of made you real famous was the money patch. Yeah. With the chance to win $100. And that one, that's got a story behind it all the time.
It does. So, you know, obviously I'm a big, in the nicest way possible, anti-government person, you know, so taxes especially falls into that category. I came up with the idea of they take more than you make. And so it was just a simple design with money bags with hands grabbing them, but we did it in an embroidered and a PVC patch. And I had this clever idea that one person would win $100. It would just be a random person would get $100 bill, but everybody had a fake 100 and a penny in their packs besides that one person. And so we said, you have a chance to get a tax refund of a penny to $100. And so once everybody realized not everybody got $100, because I don't know how they thought that would have been possible by selling a $15 patch to 100 people, but you know, there was some controversy on that until the $100 winner actually showed up. And then, you know, I thought it was pretty funny, but then I was like, you know what, I better not just give people pennies and patch packs anymore when they kind of expect that big win 100. But it was a cool patch. That was one that sold out, you know, PVC and embroidered. It's still floating around out there. And every once in a while you'll see it come up for sale in these groups. And it's always astonishing to me to see something that I sold for $15 and, you know, obviously cost us $4 or $5 to make, and then see that secondary market years later still hold up to like $50 to $75 on some of these. And some people's patches are worth way more than mine.
Yeah. It's funny. Over the years at SHOT Show, I've given out patches to people, and people have come by, and we know who you are. You know who you are, who comes up to the booth and just, all the patches. And, you know, it brings a good community, but there's times where I'll sit on the SHOT Show floor and I'll bring up eBay and I'll type in the company I'm working for, it's patch, and it'll be already up there for like 75 to 1. Like, well, that's not my account, so we're good. But it's crazy to think how the whole patch community, which is a subset of the firearms community, got together, and there are people who have like myself who have an 8x10 wall filled floor to ceiling with patches, and there's some people who have like 2 or 3, and then there's some people who have like a whole bunch more than I do, and it's crazy to see like the community. And the funny part of like, hey, I'm at SHOT Show, I'll be in the patch, talking in the patch groups, and they'll be like, hey, you gotta swing by, or hey, you gotta, and it's just, you don't know the people. You've only talked to them on the internet. I met a gentleman this year who did Ralphie from The Simpsons, picking his nose, and I ran up to meet him, and he's like, John, how are you? I'm like, bro, we've never physically met, but he's like, we've talked. And that's the thing we've talked about on the last couple episodes. It's just how being either on YouTube or being in a patch group or being in some of these firearms groups / forums, how many friends you make, and then you don't actually meet them in real life. But when you meet them in real life, it's like you've been friends for 10 years. It's fantastic to see that even though the firearms community is widespread, we are able to pull like-minded people together and just build friendships.
Yep. We may not get along on Glock and 1911, but patches sure shit bring us together, but I mean, it's very true. We actually have had 3 morale patch meetups here in the Smokies out of just the patch groups alone. And so they rented a big cabin. A bunch of them came and stayed 3 or 4 days. I just drove over since I was so close, but it was limited patches for just that meetup. And those patches instantly were worth hundreds of dollars a piece because it was a limited, this is for you, this is for me. These are not for sale. It's just because you were here.
Yeah, and that's so cool. I mean, when not to go too far off subject, but I did not realize the patch game was so important until we did our yearly patch. So we did our first patch of the year in 2020. And it's amazing to me when you go on eBay and you see, because I think we did 500. We were like, we'll see if this,
right.
we'll see if it works. If anyone likes it, we did a member campaign, I think. And so if you joined as a GOA member, you got a patch, and when they were gone, they were gone. And I still see them on people's bags and stuff. And it's okay. And then now people get very upset if they don't get the patch of the year.
Oh yeah.
And
it can bring out the best and the worst for sure.
We were walking. Kailey and I walked around SHOT Show together, meeting with companies and stuff. And she all of a sudden I'd start handing her patches, and she's like, "Where did you get that from?" I'm like, "Don't ask questions. I just walk around." I am the patch sniper.
Yep.
I will see a patch and I'll just be like, "Hey." Normally what I do, and this is funny because there's three types of patch people. And I was talking to Rachel from Night Vision about this, and there's 3 types of patch people. There's the eye contact and
is it okay?
It's okay. And then they swipe. Then there's the guy who comes and swipes everything. The booth bandits. The guy who grabs it and turns his head and walks away immediately. Doesn't even talk to you.
It's free, dude.
Then there's the person who look, what I normally do is I'll walk by and hey, you got any patches? Here's ours. Let's trade.
Exactly.
And it grows. It's funny that there's so many of them, that the styles, and I was laughing with Rachel about it, and she goes, "You are so accurate about this." Yeah, because I've watched it happen. There's always the awkward moment with patches where there's can
yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
You sure? But it builds a community. That's the funny part about SHOT Show and just our community in general. When you go to these shows and there's patches, it becomes like a Pokemon cards and a trading card. You're trading patches. Hey, I got 2 extras of these. Can you trade off for this and that? Yep. And they're all different.
Yep.
They're all fantastic. I mean, and if you miss one, you just
especially if it's a series or something.
Yeah.
And that secondary market is brutal. So if you have to, I think you guys talked with Adam from TSOS and SDS Imports a little bit. He's a huge patch collector, and his big thing is Predator stuff. And so I know he has had to pay arm and a leg for some of those things that he missed in a drop. And there was a time in the beginning that I was a very avid collector. There were some brands I really wanted to get into, but then I started being you know what, I'm just never going to get everything. And so once I finally realized that, the kind of, I guess, the intensity of collecting fell off more in those private groups, but I still get my fix, I guess, with just everybody we meet at events and all this stuff. And one thing I always tell people, especially when we're trying to promote for a brand, I keep hitting that thing, to buy patches is nobody throws those away. So even if it's your basic logo patch, it ends up in a wall, a bag, or a drawer, or given away to somebody. It's very rarely you ever find those in the trash can.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's like I've looked at my patch wall and I know exactly who gave it to me, where I got it, what company it was, and you're just like, okay, cool. So
it's an intimate moment.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, I remember. Just like we talked about, I remember snagging the full story of begging and pleading with you to trade all these badges to get.
And I was like, oh, dude, that's my last one. But like, you were so cute and sweet.
I was innocent. So that show, I'd worked in the industry on the retail side for many years. That was my first show with Faxon. It was my third day at work.
That's wild.
And I was like,
your guys' booth was busy too, because you had, if I remember correctly, you were releasing, is it the Patriot, or they were releasing the Patriot handgun?
We were releasing the handguns, which was the following weeks was a torture for me because I had to put 12,000. I sound like I'm complaining, but if you've ever put 12,000 rounds to a pistol in 3 days, you know it's not fun.
You get calluses in places you didn't know.
But there was all the guys were there. That's where I first met first met Johnny, first met Toolbox, first met Hank Strange, the We Like Shooting guys, John Patton, and these are guys who I consider friends now. It's crazy how to think like one show at one time at one booth, I was just this new guy, and then all of a sudden hey,
you're on first name basis with all the YouTubers,
phone numbers, and that's what I want to encourage people to go. Like, if you want to get into this industry, it's hard, but it's also fun, and you're not going to make a lot of money. And we'll tell you right now, you're not going to make a lot of money.
You spend everything you make.
You spend everything you make
if you make it,
especially on patches. But you make friends for life. I mean, that's how I met Kailey. That's how I met you, and how I met Ben, Stacy, who's here, and. It's just great to meet everybody, and you start talking to them. And again, we're all like-minded individuals. We all want the same thing, but then we just become friends for life. And you're in Tennessee and I'm in Arizona, and it's just like, hey, we hit each other up. We'll talk for a couple. It's not like it's an everyday thing, but I'll call him and he's like, hey man, how you been?
Pick up where we left off.
And that's the thing about this hobby and this industry and the Second Amendment community as a whole is we're a very welcoming community, and we're a very tight-knit community, and you make friends for life. I mean, I've made friends at classes. I've made friends there at events, and it's like you never skip a beat. And there's not a lot of places you can say that you can make friends for life.
Absolutely.
Especially off of one meeting. We talked for 20 minutes and then we're friends for life. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that makes the firearms culture unique, is the fact that we all want each other to succeed, whether that's in competitions or in your career or as a shooter. We genuinely want the best for each other. And we also want to see new people come into the industry. And just because you start out in one position somewhere doesn't mean that you're stuck there for life.
Right.
There's a lot of movement in the firearms industry.
Yes, you find that out really quick.
And for better or for worse, right? Yeah. And so, but there's always a place, and that's we've talked a lot about the on-ramp to the Second Amendment. If you are sitting here and you're listening to this podcast and you really want to be a content creator, or you really want to be a sales rep for a company or whatever it is that is your desire, find someone to mentor you. Show up at events, and eventually someone is going to know somebody somewhere. And everyone wants you to succeed.
I can't remember her name. She showed up to Noddy, and I feel so bad that I can't remember her name. She was just getting into the space. She's a female trainer. Know who I'm talking about.
She's from Chattanooga.
She's from Chattanooga.
Women's She was friends with Carrie.
Yeah, she made friends with Carrie at the event.
Oh, okay. I thought they were friends already.
No, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like they made,
they hit it.
They hit it off.
Thought they were lifelong friends when I saw them walking around together, and they probably just met. So
yeah, Carrie actually brought her to SHOT Show because of that. She met.
That's amazing.
So I can't remember.
I did see posts of her at SHOT Show. That's awesome.
I can't remember her name, but she, again, just like you said, if you want to be a content creator and things like that, she just was getting off. She drove.
Yep.
From Chattanooga
Natalie?
to Natalie, yes.
Yep.
Natalie, exactly.
Blonde-headed girl, had all the pictures with the nods on and stuff. Yeah. And she had reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm very new, just getting I was like, this is perfect for you to come to. And I think she camped. She had a really sweet overland set up in her vehicle. And she went balls to the wall with her experience. And it definitely paid off, I think, so it's going to be cool to see her progress in the industry as well.
But it's crazy to think she didn't know anybody. She reached out to you, and that just shows how well. Come on down, let's go. And she made friends with Carrie. She was fantastic to talk to. Great personality, great person. Got to shoot nods. Shot Steve's 50. Mm-hmm. She went all in on this event, and it paid off. And I think that's the big thing. Takeaway is if you're nervous about this, or if you are a new shooter, or if you just want to start getting into content, turn on the camera, go to these events, talk to people. Kailey said, we're a very welcoming community that want to see each other succeed. I mean, Steve has helped me out tremendously over the years. Mike Mills has helped me out. Jonathan, who is almost at 1 million subs. You think somebody with 1 million subs don't want to talk to you, but he is a good friend. Just a normal guy. Just helping. Yep. Patton's been great. I mean, we've built this community. Even we were talking to Josh about this from Black Diamond Guns Gear. Even in Tennessee, I know when Steve was in Arizona, which you guys stole him, and I'm still angry about.
I thought I'd get to see him all the time. I barely get to see him too.
But Steve, my Toolbox and Tactical Considerations, and I would all go out and shoot content together and go hang out and do stuff. And I think that's really cool with them. But also, there's a huge Tennessee crew that hangs out and does stuff together. Oh, yeah. Yep. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't see is that everybody thinks that all these content creators are fighting against each other. Mm-mm. But we're all friends. We all want to see each other. You loan guns to each other. You loan, you film for each other. And it turns into this weird, awesome community of people trying to succeed. And that's all we want to see. We just want people to succeed in the Second Amendment space.
Yeah, well, you can't build an on-ramp for someone if you're not on the path.
Very fair.
And whether that is gun advocacy or shooting or content creation or whatever that is, you have to have someone doing it to build an on-ramp for you. Mm-hmm. And I love to see our community grow. Yep. Nothing makes me happier than when we go to a lobby day and there are all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life at that lobby day. And the reason they're there isn't because someone sent an email. The reason that they're there is because they care enough to show up. Mm-hmm. And next year they bring somebody. Yep. And the next year they're sharing the post. And the next year, they are more intentional with the questions that they ask. And think about what that means to the community at large. Mm-hmm. If we want to see a restoration of our rights, we have to first advocate for them. You have to have action. In anything in life, you have to have action. But building that on-ramp is one of the best forms of action we can have. Because there is no one more fired up than someone who was previously disarmed. When you make that commitment to be a gun owner for the first time and you start getting training, it opens up a whole new world. And what do? You go to your friends that also have never been a part of the firearms community. And you're like, hey, you've got to try this. Yep. And I really like what you are doing with Noddy After Dark and night vision, because for a lot of people, it's an expensive investment. They might not
out
have,
of reach. Yeah.
they might not have that, but you have built something so that people can go in and experience it. And you're building an on-ramp to grow a niche in the firearms community and make it bigger, therefore making it more accessible. Because it comes down to supply and demand, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so by doing things like that, you're able to introduce people to something that they might have never even considered doing before.
Yep. Yeah, you hit it on the head. So one of the coolest things I think we can say about Noddy After Dark is if you've never shot a machine gun, if you've never shot suppressor, if you've never shot night vision, we'll let you do all three at once. So, that's most people. And to me, it's so, I guess, I need to remind myself how lucky we have it, because you do get kind of in a comfortability of being a content creator, right? We've been around this stuff all the time. I always feel blessed, but it is nonstop work, to do this stuff. So you kind of forget sometimes that, hey, not everybody has all these things all the time access to. So, it's something everybody should have anyway, but to provide that outlet for, pennies of what other people are charging to come out and have that experience. It's basically my calling, give you that opportunity, because once you try it, you end up trying to figure out a way to buy it. I have people all the time who are like, how did you do it? And I'm like, dude, look, it's ramen noodles for like the first 3 months when you get a PVS 14. But, life gets better. Hopefully your career gets better. Your money, financial situation gets better, and you can kind of make those decisions. And one thing I always say, please don't go take a loan out and buy night vision. You need to work toward that. I'm sure there's stuff in your house that you can sell that you're not using anymore. I'm a hoarder when it comes to guns. I never like to get rid of any guns, but man, if my wife isn't right, if I would just sell a couple, I could do a lot of other stuff, but they feel like pretty good investments sitting in that safe right now.
Well, you're not wrong. I wouldn't. So we got to attend Noddy last year. That was my first endeavor into night vision. And I can't remember the company. It was maybe Night Owl or some owl, whoever was on the end over there.
Steel.
Steel.
Yep,
Yeah.
Steel Industries.
Steel Industries. So they gave me a pair of PVS 14s. I put it on and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Look at all the stars.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, so that's the entry level. This is how much that costs. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they're like, here's some quads. I'm like, okay, cool. So I try on the quads. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is insane. Look at all them stars. And Steve's laughing at me. And I'm sitting there like, oh, how much does this cost? And then he tells me, I'm like, oh no, my wife's going to kill me.
Yeah, it's a little gut wrenching for those. So, you got to find where your lane is. That's very much my lane will never be quads. So I like to think, quads are 4 sets of duals that I can rent out to other people and give 4 more people experiences. The duals was absolutely amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't $40,000 worth sitting on my head. So, anytime I could get that free opportunity to try quads, I'm going to do it. But as far as going out and buying one of those, man, that's just FU money to me.
It was even more expensive when he's like, okay, now here's an EOTech on the gun. Go ahead and look through it. I'm like, why is that thing floating? What's going on here?
Well, that freaking, did you see their long range setup?
Oh, yeah.
So it had that whole new Raid X freaking calculator, basically shoots the gun, does everything but pull the trigger. And dude, we're sitting there. They're like one of the first ones that show up. They get it all set up and then set it against the table. That thing goes right down onto the gravel and just picks it up like it's nothing. And I'm like, my whole body is like just like cringing up right now because of what just happened. And he just brushes it off. And well, that's what warranties are for,
Well, the most fun nods are great. Don't get me wrong. They are fantastic. The most fun I had at your event was not just hanging out with the people and everything, but I got to shoot the gel guns with. It was me and Steve timed up in the little shoot house, and we had the gel guns with the thermal on them.
Yep.
And
AGM Global brought that out. Yeah, that was an awesome experience.
RMG turned the corner, and I hear, who hit me? He's screaming. It was more. Oh, it was so much fun.
It was.
I really hope that you consider doing a full on battle course next year.
Well, we would love to double the tent size and bring them out and have some more
I
stuff.
just want to run across the field with it.
Well, the field would be fun too. Yeah. It was funny, man, because I quickly realized how little self-control I had in a situation like that, because once it was on, it was just like everybody's getting it. So I remember like coming around, it was me and my wife first, Mike and his wife. And so they're coming in and I think his name was Josh. It was the guy with AGM.
Yeah.
And so I come around the corner and I clearly recognize Josh with his thermal camera recording, and I still just pull a shot off on him because he was the first person I saw, and I was just so excited to shoot somebody with this gun. And of course, it's like a crotch shot, so it like drops him like instantly. You hear "ow" from the other side, and then we finally get into it. But I remember they were like, "No full auto," and so at the very end, I think me and Mike just.
Oh yeah,
it was just dumping.
I remember we're sitting there and we're like, "What is happening in there? What is going?" It sounds like World War III.
I remember like taking the gun and reaching over the top of the box and underneath, and yeah, it was breaking all the rules, but it was awesome time.
Dad, if anybody's listening to this that hasn't experienced night vision or hasn't experienced night shooting in general, that's the event to do it at. It's a great event. It's a small event, but it's a great event, which being small is not a bad thing. It's a tight-knit group of people. You got to know everybody. We got to hang out. SDS Imports brought out glow-in-the-dark clays. That was so much fun.
That was such an awesome little addition out there.
It's just...
And then Infinity Targets being out there, like black light painting all their targets and stuff. So we just hadn't looked like a freaking... rave out on the range, basically going on.
Oh, it was great.
It was awesome.
So yeah, I mean, Kailey, you need to experience that this year. I know you've got some things.
Here's the thing. It happens to be on the week of my children's birthday. So, there are a few things that I'm like, this is dedicated family mom time.
Yep.
So...
What says happy birthday more than a pair of nods?
I was going to say, we're trying to make a couple of future little gun owners here, right?
Well, you're not wrong.
I mean...
Well, listen, there'll be 2 this year. We can start discussing range opportunities.
Well, it's the most fun I had at your event. And I walked up to you and I was like, Opie, Steve said he's going to fire off the 50 as the first round. And you were like, I was like, hey, so what if GOA fired off the first round? And the speech you gave was fantastic.
Thanks, man.
He gave us a nice speech talking about GOA, how we're no compromise, how we were the only gun rights organization to show up, which we were happy to show up to the event. And I get to the line, I give my little speech, and I go to pull the trigger. I barely even touch the trigger, and somebody starts going. I'm like, come on.
Bro, you could see whatever you say, and it was like, all right. And then you go to pull the trigger, and somebody took all right as the go. And literally right before you pull the trigger, somebody 2 steps down, pulls theirs off, and then the entire thing goes off all at once.
But what an honor to lead off a Mad Minute. I mean, those are the great moments of an event.
Oh, I will never forget that.
That's awesome, man.
It was great.
Even though it was slightly.
There's always that one guy who goes
jumps again, literally.
But I'm sitting there and they're getting ready to film. I'm like, all right, guys, this 50's a little heavy. I'm like trying to balance this thing. And they're like, okay. I'm like, all right, I'm going to fire off this shot. I'm aiming it. I hope it hits the dirt somewhere. That's the last thing I need.
Same for that.
Well, it's better. Just be happy that it was you and not me, because that gun would have been taller than me. So it would have been
ended up as a pogo stick when you're done with it.
It would have not gone on that swimming.
Well, the funny part about it is Steve was super excited to let it off, and I said, hey, what if GOA did it? And he jumped right on it.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. And I walked over. I remember walking over to you, and I'm like, all little sad voice, like, hey, buddy, what if we did the start and you were on it? You were like, oh yeah, Let's go.
It's just like seemed like a perfect fit.
Well, to give up the Mad Minute at your own event to let us do it, I am just so thankful for you to letting us do that.
It speaks volumes to your commitment to the cause. I mean, there is no arrogance with you at all. Like, you are so mission focused, and I think that really shows in how much you love your state. Like, you represent Tennessee well.
Thank you.
And I love your family. Your family's awesome. And you're game for whatever is needed to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And that's, I don't want to say that's a rarity, but you're the embodiment of just look at how much we can do if I'm not worried about the credit. Yep. And so I want to take this moment to really give you the credit that you deserve.
I really appreciate that.
You know, you're not only representing Tennessee well, but you're also representing the whole community just incredibly well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. It's an honor to be in this position to do this. One thing that is always in the back of my mind is, you know, with people like us, the Second Amendment's always going to outlive us. And so, you know, long down the line when Opie and the Smokies is far gone, I don't know, maybe Wyatt will take it over. We'll see, you know, but you know, when that's far gone, the Second Amendment will still be here. And any little thing that we can do now is going to keep it around for our grandkids. Yeah. And that's what's important.
And that increase in technology. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on night vision just because it is very pricey.
Hold on. Insert applause noise here. Good. Now go.
And cash registers.
But, you know, night vision is expensive.
Yes.
But you are really focusing on bringing people and, you know, making sure that we're open and honest about what it is, what it's for, why we like it. Yep. Because anytime new technology is introduced, there's always a fear factor of, should this accessory be there? Like, what are the real applications of it? Should we? Yep. And it's like, this is just fun.
Yep.
Like, honestly, because I live on a farm and I have a massive coyote problem, I should get some just for like the protection of livestock.
Yep.
Because it would, I could justify the cost probably really fast just because of how many animals we lose to coyotes.
Yep. Thermal and, night vision is a wide encompassing kind of subject, right? So you have thermals along with night vision where we can go rifle mounted, we can go helmet mounted, you can do a hybrid version of both. But, when it comes to protecting your farm, that could add up really, really quick. It's not just the animal itself, but all that you put into getting that animal to that point.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you do eat your livestock, that is food coming right off of your table.
Oh, yeah. We just actually...
I was waiting for you to be like, no, we don't eat our chickens.
Oh, we definitely eat our chickens.
I'm still working on I'm like, my wife, we can't name them. That's the first thing.
We definitely eat the food on our farm. But we actually just had a massive coyote attack. We lost over 40 ducks.
Oh, my God.
And that's...
all in once?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Like you're talking about some cost associated. Like,
yep.
I don't know if y'all checked the price of duck recently, but like that
almost seems like it was a hit. That's like they knew what they were doing.
Oh, it was like a whole pack. And
it's kind of scary. Like coyotes are very skittish to us, but what they're capable of doing to small animals is pretty wild. Like, I mean, they're very known for luring and, decoying out smaller animals so that they can surround and, take over. And ducks would probably be pretty easy to distract.
Yeah.
They take over with a pack of coyotes. So.
I mean, it was just wild. I've never seen like the fence was intact. Like it was just, we've like had to have a real assessment in the past few days. Like while we're filming the podcast, doing booth picks and stuff, like my husband and I are texting and going, what are we going to do? Cause like, thankfully they hunt at night, but like we have a 2-year-old, like,
and it's really like, I mean, it's just a pain in the ass, to be honest, like to have to keep up with that in the time that you're sleeping, have to worry about protecting the, the things that are kind of like helping you live your livelihood and stuff like that. But it's just something you got to do out there, unfortunately. You got to almost put it on shifts. Like, all right, you get tonight, I get tomorrow. But, it's really cool that you could set that particular, I don't know how your setup is at home, but, get it to where you have something that, okay, we can at least view from our house, and then we have something that's easily able to be taken outside. So I don't know how long you guys are here, but I could lend you a thermal for your rifle for a little bit to go try out. So at least see if you like that, or if you're like, this is cool, but I would rather have some helmet nods out here while I'm slaying coyotes.
We know
That's going to be my side hustle. Is going to be Kailey the coyote slayer.
A machine guns and nods. That'd be awesome. There's a patch right there.
New patch idea. I was going to say new patch idea. Kailey the coyote slayer.
That's awesome.
Just like, I have the power.
Listen, like it's all, the ducks were a hit, but like it just, I don't know, you get nervous when you have little kids.
Yeah.
Little kids are not smart. No offense. They're very cute, very cuddly.
And you can tell them 100 times, they're still going to touch that hot thing.
Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog? Yeah.
No, but people think, like, people look at coyotes and they're like, oh, they're so cute and they're so. You've never been around a pack of coyotes at night if you think they're cute and adorable. I've had run-ins with packs of coyotes with a sharp stick. It's not a great experience to have because they are pack animals. They will try to encircle you and try to get you to do so. Yeah, coyotes.
You look mighty juicy, man.
I am super juicy. They're like, oh, that's a meal for like 3 days. We can eat good.
We've hit it big, boys.
I mean, we've been out here for a week now and we've seen 10 bear. Every time that one walks by, we all are like, okay, we gotta be careful. Oh my God, it's a bear. We gotta go see it.
Yeah, let's get right up. Tourist mode. Yeah.
You're like, oh, you want to be my friend?
Please note the non-tourists not amused.
We did not pet the bear. We did not go close to the bear.
When I came up, it was actually one of the patch meetups. I come up here, and it's actually a fellow Tennessean that's here as well. And they had baited a bear to one of these cabins with bacon. And the bear decided to stay around, So it was like, yeah, of course I'm going to, you guys got bacon. I'm here. Like, so now what? Well, this was before I got there. Supposedly the guy discharged his pistol in the ground to scare the bear off, which worked. But I'm like, you were the same dude that baited this bear here. Like, I just wanted to punch the guy. I love the guy.
My
But just wanted to punch him because you, being somewhat local, you see the videos nonstop of people out here on the pass between the mountains getting out of their car, getting as close as they can to the elk, the bear, ridiculous. The cubs, and all that does is put those animals at a potential to be put down. And
yeah, well, let me tell you something. I grew up in Sevier County. That this is as home turf to me as you can get.
You are home.
Literally from where we're sitting in this cabin, I could be at my childhood home in like 25-ish minutes.
That's awesome.
And I was working totally ADHD moment, guys. But I was working at this Western store downtown on the Parkway. That was my high school job. And this lady from definitely not this area asked me what time they released the bears in the national park because her kids wanted to go see them. And I was like, what? And she was like, when do they release the bears? Like, we want to be there so we can get good photos. And I'm like, it's the national park. She's like, I know where I'm at. And I'm like, they live here. She's like, I know. When do they get released? And I'm like, they live in the park.
There's no release.
There's no release.
They've been released.
They're wild animals. And I'm like, I was like, now I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, if you encounter one, like, stay in your car. Like, don't
go up and say, hey, Mr. Bear.
Like, this is not a petting zoo. Like, I'm concerned at this moment.
So we,
they're already kind of like dehumanized around here because like,
they're so used to everybody being around. I watched videos of them going up to Anakista, pulling trash out right in front of people.
Yep.
We went up the first time we were here. came down with my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my wife, and our niece. We're in the car and we're coming up the mountain, and there's a bear. And I'm driving slow, but because I don't want this thing. First off, I don't want to hit a bear.
Right.
Second off,
Big dick.
I'm like, the bear is getting closer and closer to the car. I'm just gonna figure out what this bear's gonna do. And my niece in the back seat just starts yelling, "Kitty, kitty, kitty!" I'm like, "No, not a kitty."
Back to the children need to be supervised.
Can I pet that dog? But you're absolutely right. The big thing, and I am big on national parks and things like that. I really love them. I went to school to do that at one point, but people don't understand. Like, if the bear bites somebody because you got too close, the bear's done.
You still get to go on living your life if the bear didn't get lucky.
Done.
Yep.
It's with all these. I mean, watching the videos of Yellowstone and the people trying to ride the freaking buffalo.
Oh my God.
Come on. That's the sub.
Are we like so just uneducated, even though we have the smartest device known to man in our hands, like in our fingertips at all times, that like you can't look at a big animal like that and have some sort of fear? Like,
I think just to piggyback off her story, I think people are just so desensitized and think that the wildlife is like this, like the national parks are a zoo.
Released and caged.
Yeah, they can every night,
They go gather them up.
Oh,
They just they know, they sleep.
They're like
They're a
horses.
Yogi Bear.
Yeah.
They sleep in cabins.
Come
They're
back
out
to their
frying
picnic
eggs in the
basket.
morning.
Picnic
Like-
basket. That's the thing. If I'm glad it was you and not me, because I would have been, oh yeah, about 11 o'clock if you drive all the way up to
Yes.
Klingman's Dome, climb all the way to the top. That's where they
And then
really
jump off.
But the funny part is, I had the same situation when we were going through Kate's Cove. We were at one of the halfway point in Kate's Cove for people who haven't driven Kate's Cove, which is I highly recommend if you're out here.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful nature, great hikes if you go up to Abrams Falls. Sorry, I'm pitching Tennessee hard because of goals. But we were at the little, how halfway through there's that little ranger station with the city in there and stuff like that. And we're sitting there and this lady's like, when do they release the bear? And the park ranger, I bless her heart, she was getting ready to smack the poor lady in the face.
I wonder how many times they're asked that, because like I was asked at a Western store, which doesn't seem like the appropriate place to ask that question. I can't imagine being a park ranger.
If I was
here.
a park ranger, there would have been a fake clock on the wall with fake times. Like, yeah, they released the bear next bear visit 12:30.
Each time somebody asks you, get a better idea how to like add to the joke. Like
12:30 p.m. Here you go. Stand right there.
even go as far as like making fake flyers and shit.
Man. We're off topic.
But
This is how hikers go missing.
So, like it's all fun and games to talk about, the wildlife and what you're supposed to do with it. But there's a huge part of the Second Amendment community that also is actively working on the conservation movement. And, hunters, how many times have we heard, they're all FUDs? I personally don't agree with that statement because I am not a FUD. And I also like to hunt.
Right.
And so I don't believe that all hunters are FUDs. Can some of them fit that description? Of course. But I don't think they're a monolith. But one of the things that really bothers me is when people want to make false environmental claims to negatively impact the shooting sports.
Yep.
We've seen that with the lead ammo ban. And, applause to GOA members. 90% of the comments came from GOA members to hopefully stop that lead ammo ban. But these sort of things are really important because we can all enjoy nature. We can enjoy hunting. We can enjoy and want to protect these animals so that we have the pleasure of hunting them. But the Second Amendment isn't about hunting, but hunters should be about the Second Amendment.
Absolutely.
And anytime that there is an attack, whether it's lead ammo, even if it doesn't affect you, it's affecting something in the Second Amendment community. And we need to be cognizant of that. We need to react to that. And we need to take those stripes against us and move in a positive direction, because it is a death by, we're way past 10,000 cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Death by 1,000 cuts. They moved us to 10,000 cuts. It's like millions of cuts at this point. But we're still standing and we're still fighting, and we're working on the protection and the restoration of the Second Amendment. And, we live in a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. Not you, John. I'm just kidding.
Hey, mine's beautiful. It's just desert.
Beautifully dry.
Yeah.
It's beautifully dry. You're not hunting black bear in Arizona.
You're hunting cactus.
You know what? I could.
Could you really?
Yeah, north of.
Oh, that's right.
Flag.
Because you got Flagstaff.
Yeah,
I
we got
forget
Flag.
about that. Because every time I have to go to
Everybody
Arizona,
thinks
it's
Phoenix.
like Phoenix. And I'm just like, I'm baked from the inside out.
Well, they're actually opening up. So
This is
to
what
stay-
medium rare feels like.
listen, I can bake cookies in my car. I don't know about what you guys do, but I can bake cookies in my car during the day and have fresh warm cookies when I get in my car.
That's
I
one
don't
way to
know
look
that
at it.
that's a brag.
That's always seeing the positive in
That's what's
things.
in the
buddy.
positive. They're actually the thing that so a lot of people, when they think Arizona, they think just Phoenix, because it's the biggest city. But Flagstaff's beautiful. We've got bear and elk. The elk are actually coming down the mountain so far. They're coming towards Phoenix, and they're actually offering off the shelf tags for elk now because they're getting so close. But they're also like
BRB booking a plane ticket to Phoenix.
But we also have we have javelina. The coyotes there's a lot of coyotes. We have rattlesnakes. I don't hunt rattlesnakes, but they're there. They're a thing.
It's pretty scary, to be honest.
Yeah. But
we have them too.
but the other thing,
the timber rattlers here, aren't
yeah,
they?
timber rattlers are here. We have a lot of snakes that I'm not a huge fan of. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Well, when I first moved here, the house in Harriman we lived in, it was about 45 minutes west of Knoxville. Going and moving stuff in, I'm cleaning the basement. The basement wasn't the nicest, so like the tile to the cinder block had gaps between, but I find a scorpion. And supposedly we have our own species of scorpion here in the Smokies as well.
So what's our designation? We're like a tropical rainforest. We have a lot of stuff that lives here.
Really weird.
A lot of stuff tries to kill us too.
It's
We're
like
resilient people.
Mini Australia.
That sounds like Phoenix. Everything's trying to kill you in Phoenix. It's not the sun, it's the snakes, it's the scorpions, it's the big spiders. It's one of the, so
honestly though, yeah,
same.
Well, now I have a new fear. They've spotted a jaguar down south. I'm like, oh, there's a jaguar? What?
I don't mess with jaguars.
That's a thing?
new fear unlocked.
Yeah. I'm like, man, luckily it was down in Bisbee, so that's far ways away from me. But like, we've had spots of bobcats, and we had a warning the one day that there was a mountain lion in the area. And I was like, why is there a mountain lion all the way down here? And then I remember the sandhans are right behind me. So I'm like, okay, cool. There's a mountain lion. Cool. So now at night, we're going to go take the dog out. I got to turn on the lights, make sure there's no mountain lion. Make sure I'm good. We had the funniest thing the other day. It happened in my neighborhood, which was funnier. Somebody delivered a case of Girl Scout cookies and left them outside, and a pack of javelinas had their way with it. There was like 20 of them.
Oh no, because Girl Scout cookies are expensive.
Right, they ate all the Girl Scout. Those little javelinas are like wild boar, but they're like tiny, and they're very angry little things. But
just squealing the whole time.
Oh yeah, they're just eating everything. And the funny part is they look like they're like 100 pounds, but they're like miniature wild boar, so they're like tiny 100-pound things. And you're just like, that is the cutest and funniest thing I've ever seen. That thing will also kill me.
Right.
But it's the cutest, funniest thing. some guy from Britain ran into a pack of javelinas. I saw it the other day in Phoenix, and he's like, "Look at these things; they look so cute." And it started like ramming him with their tusk. And he's like, "I don't know why they're hurting me." I'm like, "Get away from the angry pig! Get away from the angry pig!"
It's like it just wants a hug.
There's a so not to get too. There's funny. So the Sonoran Desert wildlife thing, they pulled up a bunch of videos from like the 50s that they're posting, and it's this guy holding a bobcat and a javelina, and you can see his arm is bandaged all the way up because he got attacked by these things, thinking it was a good idea to hold. He's holding them in front of a crowd of people like, "This is the bobcat. Look at its teeth and look how nice it is. This is part of the Sonoran desert life." And
Cat's
his
like, "That's
arm,
enough."
oh, the cat's like pawing at him. He's got his whole hand and arm wrap. I'm like, Darwin Award of the Year.
Gosh. Well, I mean, there are so many amazing hunting opportunities across the country.
You talking about hunters and the gateway in the Second Amendment community. The funniest stat I saw about hunters is opening day of hunting season in Wisconsin is the third largest standing armed army in the world. What does that say about our Second Amendment community and our hunting community that what's the old saying? There's a gun behind every blade of grass in the U.S. It just tells you a lot that there's a lot of people who grew up on the traditions of hunting, grew up on the traditions of the Second Amendment. And I feel like unfortunately, it's a big part of our community that is slowly dying, and we need to get back into it.
I don't think it's slowly dying. I think it's dying more rapidly than we would ever want to see.
Yes.
I think if we're being honest about it, we are seeing the average age of a hunter get staggeringly high. We see the Biden administration wanting to pull hunter educations from school. Well, why would he do that? Because the government doesn't want you to think about the fact that you have the ability to use a firearm, whether it's for hunting purposes or not. That first education is a key critical piece to the puzzle. And I think that it's a dangerous thing for us to lose. And it's not because I think that you have a right to hunt. I think it's that what are we doing when we are hunting? You know, we are using firearms. We are sighting it in. We're going through the practice of pulling the trigger, understanding the cost of pulling that trigger. And it's a very important thing to kind of mentally go through the paces. And, you know, we're seeing a time in which the hunting rifles of today are not necessarily the hunting rifles of 10 years from now. I think you see a ton of hunters using ARs. You know, we hear the joke, and I know I mentioned it earlier that, you know, every hunter's a FUD. I don't believe that that's the way it is anymore. I really don't. I think the AR platform is such a popular platform. It's definitely an in common use platform that a lot of people use that. And I think it's so valuable for us as a community to see the parts of the community that are hurting, that aren't getting the investment that they should be, and increasing those numbers. Because you never know, someone who might be totally anti-concealed carry, that the best on-ramp for them might be, hey, have you seen the cost of ground meat recently? This hunting season, would you like to come and get a deer for your freezer? I mean, you don't know what kind of opportunity that you can do for somebody just by opening up your eyes and going, well, what is going to be the best way to reach you?
Well, it's crazy you brought up the AR thing. When Ohio switched over to straight walls, I built a 350 Legend AR so I could have a good hunting gun. The game changer of being able to carry an AR over a heavy shotgun. And I'm not saying shotguns are heavy, but, you know, wood shotgun that's been passed down for years. But having my own AR, I mean, that really added some weight savings walking the almost 500-600 yards into the woods that we had to walk every time we went in. It just, it's and that's the thing. A lot of people think that, that the AR is all, there's a lot of what we call FUDs who say the AR, oh, I don't want that black plastic thing floating around, but it is a night and day difference of being able to carry something lighter, being able to carry a couple extra magazines instead of having to keep a pouch full of shotgun shells. It
Also,
just is nice.
In addition to that, we're seeing more and more states allowing suppressed hunting.
Oh yeah.
If we want to see suppressors come out of the NFA, we need
Gotta
a
get the
full coalition of support.
Yep.
This has been a gross attack on the Second Amendment for decades. And it takes a united front and an active and loud voice in order to get those things accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And as more and more states are allowing suppressed hunting, we have the opportunity to bring in another group of people into the fight.
Yep.
And I don't know about you all, but I want a full repeal of the NFA.
Amen.
And anything that we can do, anything that we can make our coalition stronger in to get that goal accomplished. I mean, I think it's valuable for us to invest in those things.
Well, you talk about how technology has changed. The NFA went into effect 90 years ago this year. 90 years we've had the NFA.
And you still will hear people say, well, that 200 isn't too bad compared to what it should be.
Right.
It should never be a penny.
No.
Especially for something that is gentlemanish in the way you're shooting. There is nothing that makes a suppressed firearm a more deadly firearm, and the Hollywood rumors or the Hollywood myths of how quiet suppressors really are too is really ruined, and I think carried a lot of that being kicked while we're down in the NFA stuff for a long time. But I have noticed in the last year or two with you guys and FCP, like actually getting some stuff back. And that is the first time I've ever noticed that in my lifetime. And suppressors is absolutely a gateway. I don't know anybody that could argue that this gun doesn't need to be quieter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've said this time and time again, but OSHA is even like, hey, this is, we endorse this. This is something that's going to keep people's hearing safe. And it just blows my mind that the politicians have gotten away with for so long neglecting the realities that the NFA is not constitutional. And just because something has been around for a long time doesn't mean that it is good. And the Second Amendment, people say, well, it's been around a long time, but you're saying it's good. Yes, because that is a constitutionally protected right. It is a natural right. It's not given to us by the government. The Gun Control Act and the NFA and every law that since its inception that has gone against the Second Amendment, those are the things that have negatively impacted every single person, whether or not you participate in the Second Amendment community or not, because you are losing a portion of your right, whether you view it that way or not. That's the reality. And until we understand that as a community, until we understand that as a nation, we're at risk of further corrosion.
Yep. It's one thing I say many times. I think I even said it at my speech. It's so easy to fight for this because we're fighting for everybody, even the people we don't agree with. We are all fighting for this one right we are all given as Americans to have. And I have no problem standing up to somebody who just adamantly hates me fighting for their right, and explaining to them, hey, look, just because you don't want to use or exercise your right doesn't mean you get to control everybody else.
Well, a lot of people think gun control is this old thing. I mean, we saw it in the 1800s with cities putting in ordinance not allowed to carry in city limits, but gun control is fairly still young if you think about it. I mean, yes, the NFA is 90 years old, but that compared to the history of our country, it's fairly young. And within just the last, we'll say the last century, from 1900 to 1999, we saw 3 big control acts passed. We had the NFA, the 68 Gun Control Act, and the Hughes Amendment. And we'll add a fourth, even though it's been repealed, the AWB.
Yep.
So how can we be, as technology has advanced, I mean, everybody has a quote unquote suppressor on their vehicle, which is a muffler. You know,
isn't that even required?
Yeah, it's required.
In most states.
Yeah.
I think in every state now.
Every state required. But how do we combat? You know, technology has advanced, yet firearms technology, as we talked about with Ammo Man, it really hasn't progressed in the last 100 years. So why?
It's progressed. It just hasn't. The fundamentals haven't changed.
Right.
It's still a go bang and
yeah. Like the thing is like, you know, we look when we sue. And we sue a lot, like just as a. I'll make 2 points on this. We sue a lot, okay, a lot. And people get mad because they're like, "Well, why haven't you sued on this?" And it's like, well, because precedent is a thing, and we need to make sure that we're suing in the right places on the right things, because the last thing we want to do is sue on the wrong thing in the wrong area and set a precedent that puts us 50 years behind.
Yes.
There's an important, when you're making those kind of calls and you're doing a risk assessment in anything in your life, you have to look more than 5 seconds in the future. We could sue a lot more, and we could probably raise a lot of money suing a lot more. But we sue when it is, there is no such thing as a sure thing, but it is when we know that this is the best shot that we have.
Absolutely.
And so that's the first point. The second point is this. When you look at the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment, there is very few things that are new technologies when it comes to the Second Amendment. That's true. There are advancements, but there are very few fundamental changes. Right. And nothing proves that point better than the pistol braces. So Gun Owners Foundation, our sister organization, they're the kind of the legal powerhouse, did a video. You guys can go to the Gun Owners Foundation YouTube and click it. I think it's the #1 video. I think it's probably still pinned. But we go through the entire history of braces. And there are braces that predate the country.
Wow.
So to act like this was just some new thing that has only happened for a couple of years is ludicrous. Yep. Like it's just insane. But if the opposition is the one crafting the narrative, and if no one goes and actually fact checks and puts out the information to educate the population, it's easier for them to win. And so we spend so much of our time really like delving into these issues so that we sue, and sue often. Because the reality is the anti-gunners will do whatever they can to do the maximum amount of damage to the Second Amendment. If a governor can say under a health crisis that the entire city is not going to have any carry just because they got up on the wrong side of the bed, those sort of things have to be addressed, and addressed swiftly. Yep. And thank goodness we have a win there.
What do you think? And I just want to pick both your brains real quick. What do you think happened between the catalogs that we used to get with guns and people carrying guns on front of them, which was in the 70s, to the 90s where we had some action things, to now? What has fundamentally changed that people have gone so strictly the anti-gunners have been pushing harder than before, and our side is trying to push back as fast as we can. What do you think changed with that narrative where it was like the firearm was this centerpiece of the family nucleus, where being gun owners was this nucleus part of the family, where it was a family thing? I mean, everybody has seen the Sears catalog ad. What do you think has changed, and how do we fix that?
Do you have something you want to say first?
So I would say number one, morals of people have absolutely led to the degradation of just about everything, heightened with the social media and all that, which is, in my eyes, made youth absolutely mental these days. Number one, you don't have parents being parents. You've got a lot of friends and giving them everything they needed. I'll tell you right now that my ass was whooped as a kid, and it made me a better person. It wasn't abuse. It was, hey, you have crossed a line, and you continue to cross a line, and until you learn to not cross that line, this seems like the best option. I don't think people are disciplined. I think people are just basically running free the last freaking 25 years with basically whatever they have in their mind is, okay now. That, as well as I think us on the, let's just say the pro-gun side and the right in general, have never been proactive in fighting. We have always been reacting and never acting. That's why I made the comment earlier. It's nice to see companies like you guys actually out there fighting, because I couldn't tell you a time the NRA did that stuff for us. I don't remember from the last, I'm 36 years old, 30 years seeing a whole lot of pro-gun news. It was always this was being taken away from you, or they're threatening to take this away and all that. And like you said, the left will waste no energy and no angle on destroying you, even if it takes 25 to 50 years for us to get in a position to overturn that because it was wrong. They still will absolutely put all that on the line in the beginning. And we are still very much, say, conservative in our actions of being, fighters. We kind of realize everything that we have to lose. So a lot of people don't want to put that on the line. And I think, unfortunately, that's led to where we're at now, is now we have nothing but down here that we have to fight, all the way back up here to get some sort of like even level playing field again. I do think, though, now people are way more pissed off on our side. So I think that's why it is helping a lot of our wins that we are seeing. I think you had described it perfectly. I think the firearm used to be a nucleus of the family because it was never looked at as a political thing. It was, this is for me and my family. And something I was going to tell you earlier, you had mentioned what are we doing when we're out in the woods? Anything you do with that firearm is creating more self-reliance for you and away from the government or just relying on anybody. And I think people just don't remember that. It's the great equalizer. And, you could be the baddest mofo in this country and be an evil person, and then all it takes is one good shot. And, hey, man, we're still good. So it's a very emotional thing to witness, like how bad we have lost over the decades. I really wish that I could go back in a time machine and slap my grandfathers and be like, get your shit together. We're going to have a hell of a fight because of what you guys are refusing to do. And that's kind of where I think a lot of it led to.
I mean, I agree with that. I think one of the worst things that has happened to our country is the transition in our view of the political class. If you go and you read newspapers and books, it was always referred to as your representative, your representative. Well, think about where the power in that statement is. It's on you. It's on the people that are electing. And I don't exactly remember what year this was. It's been a while since I was in college, but we actually discussed this. And when the language started changing from representative to leader, the power dynamic shifted. And anytime the power dynamic switches and you have a elitist group in charge, they are going to want more control. Well, what are they wanting to control first? And we've seen this with governments all across the world around every known time period, right? They want control. They want to disarm. They want you to rely on them for protection and rely on them for as many aspects of your life as humanly possible. That's a sad reality. When you purchase a firearm, when you train with that firearm, when you hunt with that firearm, you are providing for your family's protection. You're providing for your family's dinner. You are more self-reliant in that mode than I think almost any other lane that you have. And so I don't think that there's a short answer to that question.
No,
I
there's
think that that question has been something that has stumped scholars and everyday men for at least this generation. I dare say many, many more and many other times. But I do think that our language matters. I think the words that we use, when you're talking about elected officials, your representatives, the terms that you use to show respect, but also show where you stand in the hierarchy of things is important. You can be respectful. I do not think that saying to a person that represents you, thank you, representative, or writing in an email, dear representative, or, I don't think that that's offensive. I don't think, referring to their office is a bad thing, dear Senator so-and-so. But I do think that there's something, you praise them when they do good. You condemn them when you do bad. There is not a single politician that is going to be perfect. If you are looking for the leader of your home to be a political leader, I think you will always find disappointment. That's not their job description. And, I think one of the biggest shames, and I think that the history books will later reflect on this, is when Congress abdicates their rights to a bureaucracy that we did not elect, because they wanted to ensure their perceived power. Because I think that they have walked over the American people in a way that we will never truly understand the depths of, until a massive amount of transparency happens. And I'm not ever really sure that we will. But the fight's not over. And there are radicals that'll say, it's time to pick up arms. I don't think we're there. I really don't. I don't think we're anywhere close to that. I think there is so much that can be done in the courts. I think there is so much that can be done by individuals advocating. And I don't think enough people do that. I think there's a lot of keyboard warriors that never send that first email to actually get something done.
You guys make it easy. You literally have
28 seconds.
Yeah.
You said Kailey timed it.
I did. I timed it. 28.7 seconds is what it takes me typing at my speed to send that form.
And if your rights, your God-given rights are not worth 30 seconds, then what is? But no, yeah, you've hit it on the head. And language is super important. You see how good the left has gotten at exaggerating their side of the language, and how they have just demonized every aspect of the gun culture, from magazines to barrel length, which none of this stuff matters. If somebody is evil, they're still going to find a way. And it just, is astonishing to me that it has taken kind of, gun owners this long to finally, at least in some way, get sort of fed up with it.
Yeah, I think, this is a long fight. This is a fight that we're going to continue to do. I don't think that we haven't thrown in the white flag yet. We're going to fight and continue to fight. And Kailey did say, brought up a point, there are some people who say it's time to, I don't think we're there yet either. I think if it does come down to that, I think there's a group of Americans who are ready, but at the same time, that is a scary thought to have because there is just something that is crazy. So
a lot of people don't realize it's not going to just be a civil war, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we all at this point are, grown up enough to understand that it's going to be pretty much every group for themselves.
Yeah.
If it comes down for that. So what really do you have like in reliance on other people at that point when everybody thinks everybody's out to get them? Yeah.
Well, listen,
we're getting deep.
This is this is a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 12 kind of talk. I agree. I mean, I with the premise of there's so much meat left on the bone that we haven't done, we haven't seen. I get it. It's hard to take off work. I totally understand. I've been there before. My biggest thing, and this is kind of like my personal, like, planting my flag. I never ask someone to do something I'm not willing to do. I send emails. I call my representatives.
Yep.
I show up to lobby day. I get it. I understand that in the day-to-day of your life, it is very difficult to make time to research bills. I also understand that in this economy, I know plenty of people who have 2, 3, 4, 5 side hustles to make things happen for their family. You might be like, I'm just trying to survive. I don't have the time. That's why we try to make it as easy as possible, because they're counting on you sitting out of the fight.
Yep.
They want nothing more than for you to stay apathetic or inactive, because you being activated, you going and voting, you campaigning for somebody, you knocking on a door, you sending out a text to your friend, emailing a legislature. Once that happens, they are now responsible to you.
Yep.
And that's something that I don't think very many people are willing to have happen. Right. I mean, honestly.
Well, I will say this, and then we'll wrap it up, because I feel like I should probably chime in on my own question at some point. Because I posed it, I should probably say something about it. I feel like the big thing, the change that we've seen, and the firearm was the nucleus of the family for a long time. I mean, there was people who were self-reliant in hunting. We saw it during the Great Depression. We saw it throughout the time. And we've talked about hunters and how the average age of hunters going up. I believe you mentioned Tennessee. We were looking at average age of 54. I think somebody brought up or something like that. Which is out.
I don't know if any state that's below 30 as the average age.
And I think what we've really done, I mean, growing up in the 90s, I'm going to date myself as a 90s baby, and in the early 2000s, I mean, there was a lot of things that we could do as a family that was surrounding a firearm, not being, maybe not a firearm in the literal sense, but there was a lot of things put out by air gun companies, not to say who, and going to local VFWs and shooting in their little BB gun ranges and things like that, and we took advantage of that as kids. And I feel like the mentors that were there pushing that, we've lost some of them, and a lot of that, there's a generation of I would say we would call it the silent generation, that the guys who fought in World War II, who are no longer with us, who are very few are left, who weren't there to mentor us, to show us what could happen and how we need to fight for our freedoms and things like that, how this is. And I feel like that's been lost. I feel like that mentorship has been lost. And I think as a community, we need to pick up that mentorship and start doing more. I know we do a lot of range days, but more outreach, more training programs, more youth programs. I know that there's a big attack from the left on youth programs. I think that we as a community just need to get together and find a way to bring youth back into this, bring the firearm as a staple of the family, as something that you can do as a family.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have this as a kid, but I know there's a lot of people who had, there was a cabin or something with a firearm hanging on the wall, or there was it was a staple piece of the family, as above the mantle, as we would say. And I just think that that's something we've seen, and I've worked with youth riflery programs. We're seeing that as a dying thing. And I just think as a community to come together and bring those programs back. And it's going to take effort. It's going to take money.
Yes.
It's going to take things. It's going to take funding, but we need to bring those things back. I mean, again, the other thing that I think happened is we saw a lot of major retailers get out of it. I mean, Opie and I are the same age-ish, so
here we go.
I remember going to the Kmart and seeing the sporting goods section.
Yep.
That makes me feel old, but
I remember Kmart. I hadn't thought about Kmart
is
in
there
a
any
long
Kmarts
time.
left?
No, I think they're done.
defunct.
They're fine.
If you go down to Halls, close where I'm at, you can see the remnants of one, but it's a U-Haul parking lot now.
Same in Maryville. It's the one in Maryville that I used to go to.
That's the thing. We've seen Kmart pull stuff out, and there's a company that has a green logo that we won't mention by name because a lot of it have pulled firearms from their stores, and a lot of companies are pulling themselves in, and
like Walmart.
Walmart.
It's
too.
wild that they went as far to pick and choose. Like it's like one side of the line or the other, but they went and picked in my opinion, the weakest rounds they had and said that they were the most dangerous and banned them when Walmart had the cheapest on-shelf ammo for years. That was my go-to.
And I think that's the other thing. Like you're pulling out, again, you and I I'm dating myself. I'm feeling old today, folks.
You're going to have to wrap this because I have to pee so bad.
I'm wrapping it up. Back in my day, kids, we had
to hold it uphill.
No, but we had like squirt guns that looked like real guns. We had toy guns. We had Walmart had guns and Kmart had guns, and you'd go to the gun section. The store that reminds me the most of the good old days, as I say, is Rule King. Rule King's a fantastic.
Bro, I love. There's one right by my house.
There's all these
a couple times a
free
week.
plugs for companies all of a sudden, but that's my
yeah. We need to get them as a sponsor.
Sponsor us.
Free chickens for everybody.
Free chickens for life. Hey, like that idea. But that's, now that I've dated myself and feel, I think that's really what has happened. A lot of companies have done this woke thing and gotten rid of stuff, and
they don't even really know what woke means.
I feel like the mom and pop stores need to bring back there's always that mom and pop gun store that has a community mentality. And it used to be like, we'll go down to the mom and pop store.
Yep.
Go hang out. Go talk. Now that I'm sad and Kailey is rushing me, let's just kidding on that. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Goals is coming to Knoxville August 17th and 18th. And so Opie, go ahead and plug away. I know you're going to be there. So go ahead and give your socials, anything you want to share with the folks before we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, guys, thanks for having me. This is real fun. A lot of crying and tears from happiness and laughing in here, but yeah, no, great time. Guys, you can find me, since we've recently been banned, Instagram is going to be the Redbeard Society, all spelled out. Facebook, we have an Opie and the Smokies back up. And then on Instagram, it's going to be Noddy After Dark 2 with underscores. And then we do have a Noddy After Dark page on Facebook as well. YouTube is Opie and the Smokies. We offer training here in East Tennessee. So if you guys want to come train with us, we offer pistol and rifle and shotgun fundamental classes, night vision introduction, and even some everyday carry and women's pistol classes as well. Our whole goal is just to get you on the range. So our offer is you pay that class fee the first time, everything after is half off. So once I know that you can basically not be babysitted the entire time and you're not going to shoot my target stands the whole time, you could come by with basically what a range day at an indoor range would be. That's my biggest downside with indoor ranges. You can't do a whole lot. We got some really good ones here in Knoxville, but they just don't let you. They don't let you fly. I'm a peacock, you know. I gotta fly.
Let me spread my wings.
You're right. But Noddy After Dark, guys, October 25th, 26th this year. GOA will be there as well. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for goals. It's going to be an awesome time. I guess I'm on stage now.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? You're on stage now.
Thanks for watching this week. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a 5-star review on podcasting platforms. If you have not registered for the Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit, GOA's inaugural convention in Knoxville, please visit goals.gunowners.org, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.